Yeah, it's recording. All right. So,
Yay.
so how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. My
That's
mom,
awesome.
being my mom just died, I think I'm doing all right
All right,
for
cool.
someone who lost their mom.
Yeah. Hey, so here we go. So, what's your name and what do you currently do?
Okay, my name is Michelle Gold, and what I currently do is I am a mom, I am an author, and but I consider myself a musicianary, a traveling musician, artist slash minister.
Hey, so what got you interested in what you're doing now?
See, well, I grew up without any faith and without any kind of spiritual connection with God. And when I was 15, my cousin told me how God could be my father and my friend. And since that accepting Yeshua, accepting God at that time in my life at 15, ever since then, I felt compelled to spread this message of hope and healing. I feel that we need to have a zest for life and that this is the ultimate purpose of my life to share that healing and hope through music and stories.
So, what was your life like growing up?
Growing up, it was chaos. My mother was bipolar, manic depressive, so there was a lot of fighting. My parents were throwing things at each other. My mother was throwing shoes and frames and didn't have her anger under control until she started on medication. And then, even after the medication, by then I was so scarred. I was looking for love in all the wrong places and sought through relationships with boys and through my desire for fame, I sought comfort that I never ended up finding. And all of that left me very empty for a long time until I went back to my faith and my background with my family. My situation was healed after years of therapy and working through a lot of the issues that I had.
So, what were some turning points for you?
Mm. Do you mean in my relationship with my family or in my own relationship with myself?
I think that all of it. Like, can you expound on it a little bit more?
Mm. Yeah, I know that I had a one turning point with regard to my search for boys and relationships to fill the void in my heart. One turning point was I lost my voice. I was in college. I was about 19ish, and he no longer wanted to go out with me. I remember being on the phone with him. He was an alcoholic, and I was longing for him to come visit me. I lived 2 hours away in my dorm, and he just left me flat, said he didn't want to come over. He didn't have time for me. Between losing my voice and losing my relationship with my boyfriend, it forced me to look at what brought me happiness. It made me realize that my happiness could not be dependent on people, places, and things. And those things can include aspirations, dreams, visions. I realized that my happiness needs to be in a higher power. So that was one turning point. And that led me to the 12-step program. I believe that God used the 12-step program to bring the most healing. And then another turning point, years and years later, I'm fast forwarding through a lot of information here, but I met my husband at 19 years old. I found his church, I found him preaching, and I heard him talking about how it's okay to be angry because God understands anger as long as we don't sin in that anger. And I hadn't mentioned this earlier, but you might know that I was molested as well as a child. Um, and the turning point was Joe praying for me. We sat on the floor in the comfort of my home. I said, "Do not pray for me. I am fine." And he said, "No, I think you need prayer." And as he prayed for me, I wept. That was a real turning point in my life, getting to cry through all that pain. And in therapy, I didn't cry quite as much, I guess. There's a difference. I think in therapy, I just dumped a lot of data, but I didn't really walk through the emotions of it. I needed God, I needed prayer. Prayer did something that therapy didn't do. Isn't that interesting? And group therapy did something that the one-on-one therapy didn't do. The group therapy was another turning point in that I had courage to act. So I don't know if you've experienced this, but when you have one-on-one therapy, you do a lot of data dumping, like you would with your friends. You kind of just share. He said, she said. But when I was in the group, I heard other people say what to do in situations, and it gave me the courage to actually take action and start speaking up for myself, start feeling my feelings. So yeah, those are three big turning points in my life. The time of prayer, the time of the support group, and the time of realizing only God could bring me happiness.
So, what got you interested in music?
I have a mosquito on my wall, I'm gonna kill it. Yes. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, what got you interested in music?
My mother was singing from the day I was born. As I was being born, she sang Michelle My Belle by the Beatles. And my parents, from as early as I can remember, I was a walking trained monkey or trained jukebox. My parents would just plop me on any counter at the bank or any counter at a fair or at the store, and they would just say, sing, without even putting a quarter in. And it was like, okay. It wasn't even a question. It was just sing. It was a command. And I had songs in my pocket that I would just take out, whether it was the Star Spangled Banner or Happy Birthday, you know, when you're little, Frere Jacques. And then, so yeah, I was actually born into it. It wasn't really a decision. I was just put there. Actually, my mother sang at nursing homes and I went with her because she promised me a Barbie doll if I were to sing. I don't know if that was bribery or payment, but it worked. Once I got up on stage or the table or the chair, because I think they didn't have a stage at the nursing home, she would put me on a chair. All the old people would come and kiss my face with their gross wet lips on my cheeks. You know, when you're little, you're like, ew. But I felt the fulfillment of using music to bring hope to people. I felt that at 8 years old or 9 years old. So that's what made me want to do music, that very moment of receiving so much good feedback from people, how music can be like therapy.
Hey, this is Michelle Gold. Hey, I hope you're enjoying this interview so far. Come listen to the rest of it in part 2. Thanks so much for listening. Shalom.